Hello, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and welcome to day 7 of By the Wall for God's Witness to the Wonder. In day 7, we're talking about David and how he has written down all these prophecies from God about the Messiah to come in the New Testament and how he was a witness to the wonder. So last year for Advent, I went through By the Wall for God's kit and created a tag ring. So I did a tag for every day. So very similar to this year where I had a smaller canvas to work on, which helped me get one done each day. So very helpful in that stance. But anyways, I saw this tag ring that I had done on one of my Instagram reels, and it had all these sprays of bright colors of distress oxides, and then I had flicked on some white picket fence like I'm doing here. And then I put on a cut file from Paige Evans, which was a star wreath. And when I saw that reel, I was really inspired to try to recreate it with this year's colors. So obviously this year is much more muted. So I tried to do that on the front side of this card. And then on the back side of the card, I wanted it to be very simple. So I just put this music paper down, and then I will create kind of like a cluster on the back side of this card. So this is that cut file that I had cut out with my silhouette cameo. It did take a little bit of time to weed this, and then I also backed each one of these stars with some colors of the paper pack that was an add-on to the kit. And so that took quite a bit of time, but I watched a movie with my husband last night and just sat down and did that. So that's why it's not part of this process video. Plus it would have taken forever to show you how long it takes to kind of paper piece those stars, but it's something fun to do and kind of monotonous, so I don't mind that kind of work. So if you like that kind of stuff, then go ahead and get a cut file and paper piece. But before I go back to working on that front side, I definitely want to finish up this back side and the cluster that I'm creating, simply because I'm going to be using glossy accents on all those stars, just like I did last year. So that takes a while to dry, so I'm making sure to get everything done on this back side first. You know I can't do a flashcard without dog earing it, so I put a little dog ear in it, and then I also backed it with some of that star paper, and I'm making sure to distress all the edges, and then I will staple that corner down just to add a little bit of texture. I know I had already glued it, but I just like the look of a staple or a brad. I also deconstruct this fabric bow clip. I love the print that it is, and the blues just completely match the stars in my wreath on the other side. So I'm going to add that right below the Bible reference. What I'll do is I'll fold it back and forth like I usually do. Now I could have hand stitched it, but instead I just used my tiny attacher, and then I will tuck that in under the card. Now if you haven't noticed already, I did rip my flashcard. I can do that every once in a while just because I'm a little bit rough with my scissors when I'm roughing up all the edges. But don't worry, once I glue this down, you won't be able to see it as much. I will add a little bit extra glue right in that area, and then once I press it down, I'll make sure to hold it there for a second, and you really won't be able to see it that much. I'm also going to grab those free printable pockets, not to use for the pocket itself, but because I want that number 7. I want to make sure to have every day listed on these cards just in case they get out of order eventually. And so I am cutting it as close as possible to the black line with still leaving a little bit of that blue showing. I'm going to be adding this number 7 to the bottom left-hand corner of this cluster. And I will also grab my mini tile alphas, and I will spell out the word day on it and put that to the left-hand side. Now, when I picked out the mini tile alphas, I did decide to go with the brown one. It kind of reminds me of gingerbread. I don't know, I think it should have that name. So I go with this gingerbread colored tile alpha because it matches with the stars that I have on the front side of this card. And I don't want these tile alphas to get lost in the background with the music. So I take my Micron pen and just add a little square around each one of these, and that will help it pop out a lot. Now I do have to say that sometimes these Micron pens can be a little bit finicky, so try not to draw on the stickers themselves, but more so on the flat paper around it. This card did get a little bit curvy with how much wetness I had on the front side, but don't worry, it's just paper, so you can basically always bend it back. But here I am adding my Barely Arts glue. I'm going to put one little dot on each one of these stars to try to hold it on, and then we'll work on those glossy accents. Now I do have to say that this cut file I scaled down significantly, and so make sure if you're going to do that, have a really sharp blade for your silhouette machine or whatever cutting machine you're using, because you're going to need it to get the best cut lines. Mine could have probably been a little bit more sharp. The cut still looked fine, especially when I added the backer papers, but that's just something you're going to run into if you don't have a nice and sharp blade. Now last year I ended up putting a title in the middle of the wreath on my tag, and so I decided to do the same thing this year. So I wrote David, a witness to the wonder, and then I'm cutting that out and I'm going to glue it down to the center of this wreath. Now I have had a number of people ask me lately what typewriter I have and use, and I have an Olivetti Studio 46. I did find it on Facebook Marketplace. I think that's a great place to start looking for a typewriter, and I just picked it up. I probably got it a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I just really like using it. I love it more than my handwriting. I don't know. It just gives me a clean, nice look for myself. And I think I only paid like $50 for it. So definitely check your Facebook Marketplace. Obviously, it's not a royal, but maybe someday I'll get there. Also, I really appreciate the durability of the older typewriters, and that's why I decided to look on Facebook Marketplace first instead of going for one of the newer ones. It is really durable, guys. My kids sometimes use it without telling me, and it stands the test of time. I can tell you that for sure. So anyways, I'm adding these little titles to my card with some tweezers because these are really tiny little pieces of paper that I'm using. And then I am going to go over and grab my glossy accents because this is the same thing I did last year. And I'm going to add that glossy accents to every single one of these stars and have it sit for an hour or two to make sure that everything dries. Now this is all to say you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. If you really like something you've done in the past, do it again and maybe do it a little bit differently. And that's what I've done today, is just taken something that I've done in the past and it brought some of the colors from this devotional kit and themes and just kind of redid it again. And what's important about Bible journaling, or in this case doing memory decks cards, is remembering what we studied. And this kind of card is something that takes a long time to work on. Not that it's hard, but it helps you focus on what you're studying and think about what you're studying. And what's great is, as a visual learner, I can remember this card in my mind and also remember what I studied by thinking of this card. And so that's the important thing about Bible journaling. It's not trying to do new things and everything, although that's fun, but it's just to know the word. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can go ahead and follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I will link everything I use down below. And if you haven't seen the video for day 6 yet, I'll link that next. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.